It was supposed to be a comeback moment. A glamorous gala, a prestigious award, a room full of Hollywood elites nodding in approval. But instead of applause, Meghan Markle found herself at the center of a cultural roast, with the backlash louder than any standing ovation. From social media scorn to comedic takedowns, the Duchess of Montecito's latest honor has quickly turned into a cautionary tale of celebrity overreach. If you've ever questioned how modern fame can turn thin air into accolades and how PR masks can crack under pressure, make sure to subscribe right now. Because this story isn't just about Meghan Markle, it's about the growing exhaustion with performative activism, inflated celebrity awards, and the uncomfortable truth the spotlight can no longer hide. Let's start with what's actually happening. On June 14th, the Natural History Museums of Los Angeles County will host their much-hyped Night of Wonder Gala. Guests will dine on fine cuisine, rub elbows with donors and celebrities, and shell out up to $250,000 per table for the experience. But the real headline is this: Meghan Markle will be honored for her so-called advocacy work, particularly in support of women and underserved communities. Now, on the surface, this sounds like a typical celebrity-laced charity event. But the moment the news broke, the internet, and more surprisingly, the comedy world, lit up in disbelief. Critics didn't just question the award, they ridiculed the very idea of it. After all, what exactly is Meghan being honored for? And what does the Natural History Museum, an institution devoted to science, research, and education, have to do with a former actress turned lifestyle brand? The backlash was swift. Comedian and cultural commentator Jon Stewart didn't hold back. In a viral segment, Stewart mocked the gala as reputation laundering, comparing Meghan's award to the kind of participation trophy handed out when there's no real accomplishment to celebrate. His takedown struck a chord, not because it was mean-spirited, but because it voiced what many were already thinking. This wasn't an honor, it was a branding exercise in disguise. And here's where things start to unravel, because this isn't an isolated incident. Meghan Markle's post-royal image has been built on a string of glossy, high-profile ventures. A podcast deal with Spotify that ended in silence, a Netflix animation called Pearl that was abruptly canceled, and a foundation, Archewell, that has produced more headlines than measurable impact. Her supporters call her a humanitarian. Her critics call her a strategist. But both agree, the results don't quite match the rhetoric. The Natural History Museum's decision to spotlight Meghan has raised uncomfortable questions about how institutions, even those dedicated to science, can be swayed by celebrity status. Numerous voices in the academic and cultural sectors have condemned the move as tone-deaf. Why should a science museum elevate a figure whose achievements are more symbolic than substantive? And more importantly, what message does it send to the public when vague buzzwords like equity, narrative, and empowerment are enough to justify six-figure fundraising galas and media praise? Even longtime royal watchers are baffled. Meghan's transition from senior royal to California activist has been rocky at best. Her early statements about feminism and equality were well received. But over time, they've evolved into a pattern of curated, branded appearances, with little transparency and even less tangible follow-through. The price tag for the gala alone tells its own story. A single seat costs $1,500, full tables up to $250,000. And what's the main attraction? A speech from Meghan Markle, who is expected to deliver a blend of polished talking points, PR-safe anecdotes, and perhaps a few name drops from Hollywood's inner circle. But will it be memorable? Will it be authentic? Or will it be just another echo in the chamber of celebrity self-celebration? This isn't the first time Meghan's image has collided with public skepticism, but it may be one of the most damaging because this time, the ridicule didn't come from anonymous tabloids. It came from trusted cultural voices. Every day, citizens and even comedians known for their sharp instincts about public mood. When someone like Jon Stewart starts using your honor as a punchline, it's a sign that the tide is turning. And Meghan's team? They've stayed quiet. No clarification on the award, no breakdown of her achievements, no engagement with critics, just silence. That silence speaks volumes. It suggests even her advisors understand that this award may do more harm than good. But this is just the beginning. This gala, as grand as it may seem on paper, isn't just about one night of speeches and applause. It represents something deeper and far more troubling. A trend where visibility gets mistaken for value, where curated image outweighs actual, service, and where being famous for being famous is enough to earn you a standing ovation. Let's talk about the numbers. Not just ticket prices, but the credibility deficit that comes with them. The Natural History Museum isn't some fashion house or streaming platform. It's supposed to be an institution of science, history, and educational advancement. Yet here it is, elevating a public figure best known not for conservation or discovery, but for Spotify deals that ended in silence and Netflix shows that never aired. And this disconnect isn't going unnoticed. Many within the museum's own community, historians, researchers, and loyal patrons have voiced frustration. How did honoring a former royal with a shaky activist resume become a priority? What kind of example does that set for young girls who are actually pursuing careers in STEM, education, or nonprofit service? Even worse, this isn't the first time Meghan has been handed an accolade that sparked confusion or criticism. Take the 2021 Global Citizen Awards, for example. Meghan and Prince Harry were lauded for their humanitarian work, but details on what exactly they had done were scarce. Their foundation, Archewell, was still in its infancy, with no clear large-scale initiatives. Their media appearances focused more on brand building than boots-on-the-ground action. And yet, there they were, center stage again. Then there's Time Magazine's Most Influential People list. Their inclusion ignited debates about what influence really means. Is it about trending on social media, or is it about inspiring lasting change? Critics couldn't help but notice that many of these honors appeared soon after the couple's media blitz, Oprah interviews, docuseries, and podcast teasers. Coincidence or strategy? But what's most damaging isn't just that these awards feel unearned, it's that they're becoming laughable. And this time, it was Jon Stewart who delivered the punchline. On his show, Stewart didn't just criticize the gala. He tore into the broader culture that enables it, the culture that hands out awards not for action, but for attendance, that celebrates influence over integrity. And in doing so, he flipped the script. Suddenly, Meghan wasn't the subject of admiration. She was the subject of satire. And satire is a powerful thing, because once the public starts laughing at you, it becomes hard to take you seriously again. This is where Meghan's image begins to buckle under its own weight. Because for every glossy photo shoot and brand partnership, there's a growing list of questions with no answers. What happened to the Archewell initiatives? Where's the impact report? Why does every headline feel more like a PR spin than a reflection of meaningful change? Even her podcast, Archetypes, began as a promising platform to explore female stereotypes, but quickly devolved into surface-level celebrity chatter. The final episode, with Beyoncé's mother, Tina Knowles, was telling. It had more Hollywood name-dropping than any substance, leaving listeners confused about the actual mission. And yet, somehow, this is the body of work being honored by a museum rooted in science. The criticism isn't just coming from royal biographers or anonymous Twitter accounts. It's coming from scholars, educators, and even former supporters. People who once saw Meghan as a modern voice in a centuries-old institution now see her as a symbol of overexposure and under-delivery. Worse still, Meghan's refusal to respond directly to the criticism only fuels the fire. There's been no transparent statement from her team, no detailed defense of her qualifications for the award, and no explanation as to why this event matters beyond optics. That vacuum is dangerous, because in PR, when you don't control the narrative, someone else will. And right now, the narrative is this: Meghan Markle is being rewarded for showing up, not for showing impact. And the institutions giving her those awards are trading their own integrity for a few moments of viral fame. But what happens when that fame fades? Because that's the risk Meghan now faces. Not just ridicule, but irrelevance. If every project is short-lived, every award is questioned, and every appearance is met with skepticism, the public stops caring. Not because they're cruel, but because they've seen this show before, and they're no longer buying tickets. The most troubling part of this entire situation isn't just the backlash, it's the pattern. Meghan Markle's post-royal journey seems to follow a familiar cycle: a splashy announcement, a wave of media buzz, a promise of something transformative, and then silence. Or worse, underwhelming delivery. Each time, the hype machine spins into overdrive, but the actual results never quite live up to the headlines. This latest gala honor from the Natural History Museum fits right into that pattern, and while Meghan's team may have hoped this would be a reset, a moment to reclaim positive press, it's having the opposite effect. The award is highlighting everything critics have been saying for years, that beneath the speeches, the slogans, and the staged moments, there isn't much substance. Even the public's reaction has changed. Where there was once curiosity, there's now fatigue. Where there was admiration, there's growing disbelief. Meghan's narrative, once painted as brave and rebellious, now feels calculated and worn thin. The royal family, for all its flaws, operates under centuries of tradition and scrutiny. Meghan and Harry walked away from that structure with a promise to build something freer, more meaningful. But nearly 4 years later, the track record is shaky at best. Media deals have fizzled, charitable projects lack visibility, public trust has eroded, and now even allies are quiet. That silence is loud, because when even your supporters stop defending you, or worse, start laughing, the image you've spent years constructing begins to crack. Critics have been quick to point out the irony. Meghan Markle, once hailed as a modern voice who would revolutionize the monarchy, is now being honored not for concrete contributions, but for curated activism. She left one institution seeking purpose, only to embed herself in another that thrives on vanity metrics and media optics. It's the Hollywood loop: get famous, stay visible, accept awards for being famous. But that loop is exhausting. And it doesn't last forever. This is why Jon Stewart's roast hit so hard. It didn't just mock the gala, it exposed the machinery behind it. The idea that institutions, desperate for relevance and donations, are willing to sell prestige to the highest bidder. That awards can be bought with a name, a publicist, and a platform. That merit in this new ecosystem is optional. And here's the thing, Meghan is not the only one doing this, but she has become the face of it. And once you're the face of a problem, every misstep becomes a headline. Every gala becomes a referendum on your entire brand. Every silence becomes a signal that there's nothing left to say. There's a growing sense that Meghan's efforts, whether in media, philanthropy, or advocacy, are more about symbolism than change. Glossy Instagram posts, carefully worded speeches, partnerships with vague missions. But where's the hard data? Where are the measurable results? Even the Archewell Foundation, launched with promises of global impact, has yet to show concrete progress on major issues. Reports suggest minimal public engagement, limited transparency, and no large-scale initiatives. Just updates about upcoming projects that rarely seem to arrive. Compare that to other public figures who've quietly built real-world change, creating schools, funding research, supporting grassroots movements, and the contrast is stark. And that's the core of the controversy. Meghan and Harry continue to receive high-profile recognition that doesn't align with their tangible output. The awards feel inflated. The applause feels pre-written. And the audience? They're growing restless. Worse still, these missteps don't just reflect on the Sussexes, they drag down the institutions involved. When a science museum throws its weight behind a celebrity with little connection to its mission, it loses credibility. When awards feel more like marketing stunts than earned accolades, people stop trusting the process. And when a gala designed to celebrate equity and empowerment becomes a parody, it hurts more than just Meghan's image. It damages the idea that those words actually matter. Because in a world saturated with slogans and campaigns, people are craving authenticity. They want to see real impact. They want to trust that the people receiving praise have earned it. And that's where this story takes a darker turn. The more Meghan leans into spectacle, the harder it becomes to pivot to substance. The more she appears at galas with buzzwords and designer gowns, the less likely people are to believe in her grassroots mission. Her brand, once built on breaking away from the royal machine, is now starting to resemble exactly what she left behind: elite, detached, and polished to a fault. And the public? They're starting to see through it. It's no longer about one award. It's about what that award represents. The backlash surrounding Meghan Markle's upcoming honor at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles is a reflection of something deeper: the collapse of credibility. In an age where celebrity is mistaken for contribution, the gala is still scheduled. The red carpet will still be rolled out. And Meghan will most likely take the stage in a dazzling outfit, deliver a carefully rehearsed speech filled with elegant phrasing, and exit to a round of applause. But outside that glittering ballroom, the damage is done. Across social media, on talk shows, in editorial columns and viral memes, the story has already shifted. Meghan isn't being seen as a leader or an icon. She's being seen as a product, a perfectly polished persona, crafted for headlines but disconnected from the work that should define it. And the public is waking up. People are no longer content with polished sound bites and vague promises. They want proof. They want action. They want change that can be measured, not just narrated in front of wealthy donors and Hollywood friends. And when they don't get it, they're not just skeptical. They're vocal, they're sharp, and in some cases, they're ruthless. Even, Meghan's allies can't ignore the shift. Some are falling silent, others are distancing themselves. And perhaps the most damaging consequence of all, her name is becoming the punchline, not the headline. And it's not because of malice, it's because there's a difference between being celebrated and being exposed. And when the exposure reveals more packaging than product, the celebration turns into something else entirely. A spectacle, an echo chamber, a slow unraveling of the brand that was supposed to redefine royalty for the modern world. Look around. How many awards can one receive for projects that never fully launch? How long can someone stay on most influential lists while their biggest headlines are about failures, fallouts, and silent foundations? This gala, the one that was meant to be redemptive, has instead highlighted the imbalance. Meghan may walk away with a trophy in hand, but behind her, she leaves a trail of unresolved questions, disappointed supporters, and institutions now caught in the crossfire of celebrity culture's credibility crisis. So what comes next? If Meghan Markle truly wants to reclaim her narrative, it will take more than branding. It will take more than speeches. It will take substance and a willingness to step out of the spotlight and do the kind of quiet, consistent work that can't be packaged in a press release. Because while the spotlight is powerful, it's also fleeting. And when your reputation is built on image alone, it only takes one spotlight to show what's missing underneath. Until then, every stage she steps on, no matter how glamorous, will echo with the same question: what has she actually done? And the longer that question goes unanswered, the louder it gets. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, or if you're as fascinated by the way fame, media, and influence collide, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the Meghan Markle story isn't over, and we'll be here when the next chapter breaks.